Hey guys, why did Nick let Danielle L go? First of all, she was not connecting with him at all. She was trying to stay positive, which is a lot better than, what happened with Jasmine and Dominique. But everything was presentational. She was laughing when he'd say something, and it was just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. When he talked to her on their 2-on-1 after he sent the other one home, he asked her how she felt about things, and she would just give him these very basic one-color answers about their future, that she could see them together, that she's falling in love with him, but there were no specifics about them, their lives, why they connect. She said something which was great, and I thought she was getting on the right path. She said, and I want you to know that you could always talk to me if you have an issue about something. Great. So he starts talking to her and asking her how she feels about things, and she says positive stuff. So everything's fine. So we're on the same page. I'm so glad we could talk about this. The conversation wasn't over. She didn't allow him to contribute to it. That was her turn to say, and how do you feel about these things? But I think she was afraid that he might say something negative, so she was trying to keep things positive. But Nick felt that disconnect, that she was not in touch with how he was feeling. He was right there feeling it, and so the fact that she was just smiling and saying, "Oh, I'm so glad," as if she couldn't even perceive that. We could see it on the camera. But now, why did she go from having this great chemistry with him and them getting along to all of a sudden this kind of insecure but trying to keep a secure front, keep an okay front, everything's fine, when it's not? When she went on that date with Nick in their hometown, and then we saw through the storefront window his ex-girlfriend, and instead of just saying, "Oh, there's my ex-girlfriend," or not even mentioning her, right? I'm sure the producers set it up or whatever, but then to invite her out with them, to sit down with them, for Nick to kind of look the ex-girlfriend up and down and say, "You look great," and then the ex-girlfriend kind of flirted back. I forget what she said. Danielle sitting there having to deal with this real disrespect, real not looking out for Danielle's feelings, real reckless with her heart. I'll tell you something, if that was me, Nick's probably like, "Well, that isn't you because you're 52. No, but if that was me in that position, I would have left the show. And I don't mean it in an angry way, like, no, not angry at all. I would just know this is not the person for me, because I would get that icky feeling, and it's not the other woman, it's not the ex-girlfriend, because someone could do shit, but it's the person that's your partner that you want to trust, that's going to put you first and make sure that your heart is okay. Here's an example. And I've experienced this with a lot of different people in the past, so I know what I'm talking about, and I've done exactly what Danielle's done. But here's an example. A few weeks ago, my husband and I were downstairs, and we passed this woman who's really cute, and I know his physical type, and I could see him kind of check her out, which he usually never does in front of me. And later we came back down, she was there again, and I didn't say anything, but and we've never talked about it, but I think he sensed something. So he all of a sudden started not looking at her and touching me a lot and talking about something he needed to help me take care of or something. That's friggin' amazing. You don't find many people like that, men or women. So you want someone who's not going to be reckless with your heart. And we know Nick doesn't want someone who's reckless with his heart. That whole situation was so uncalled for. And I think Danielle had two choices. Well, she had three choices. One choice would have been to complain to him and say, like, "What the hell was that? That was really uncool." And you know what? They don't know each other enough to get into a conflict. They're not in a relationship deep enough to even discuss it, to see if that could be worked out. So the other option would have been to leave the show. The second option would be to try to stay centered and later say, "I understand we haven't been dating very long or anything. That made me feel really uncomfortable." And try to just talk about it that way. I think that could have possibly led to a better connection between them. But at the same time, how's she going to do that? She's on a show, and it's not just dating somebody, you know, who you like a lot, but you've only dated 2 or 3 times. It's a competition. And so I think what happened was the third thing, she closed part of herself off because she felt like she needed to keep going with this. And when she closed part of herself off, the only other option, instead of standing up for herself, was to sort of, this is a strong word, but sort of betray herself by shutting that off and going with it despite being treated that way. And so to do that, and I've done this in the past, you know, so to do that instead, she's kind of putting up this front, not connected with her feelings or her insecurity, and just plowing ahead, as we saw the couple of times after that when she sat with him when they had private time, and she'd say something like, I know I had the rose, but I'm going for what I want now, you know. And then the other time where she came up and said, I feel like I didn't get to say or do everything I wanted on our date, you know, like there was always this kind of neediness coming up after that, and just the front of kind of trying so hard to stay positive. I think that's why that happened between them. So take it for what it is. Have a good night.